third night of anti-immigration disorder in the Norfolk town of Thetford saw 2 further arrests, bringing the total number of people arrested to 5 now.
Well, a female police officer was seriously injured after being bitten while crowds allegedly tried to storm homes linked to asylum seekers, following damage to properties the previous night.
Yeah, police have now stepped up their presence and introduced additional powers in the town as they try to prevent further disorder.
Well, we're joined now by GB News national reporter Jack Carson, live from Thetford. Jack, do we know exactly what the police are going to do in terms of getting more numbers in there?
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
Have they called mutual aid from other forces, for instance?
Well, that certainly has been the case, and in the past hour or so since we've been here, we've seen a neighbourhood policing unit riding around this neighbourhood. This street here in Thetford was hit as part of those protests, and as we saw on Wednesday night, other parts of Thetford on other days. Let's speak to Reform UK County Councillor for Norfolk County Council, Scott Hussey now. Scott, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Good afternoon.
5 people arrested, an officer saying that they'd been seriously bitten, disorder with houses being hit with eggs like the one behind us. What do you make of what's happened here over the past few days?
Well, I was actually here from the very start. There was a peaceful protest which started at the police station in Thetford, and then a number of protesters came over to it. When I arrived, one side of the street had a very heavy police presence. Maybe I counted 30 police officers on this side of the street, all lined up. I think there were police vans, riot vans around, so I think probably maybe 36 up to 40 police officers here, and maybe 80 protesters. It was from when I was here, it was a very peaceful protest. It was quite lively, maybe, but it was definitely not violent from what I could see. There's a woman in a buggy who I understand was pepper sprayed by the police. Her son was pepper sprayed by the police. And then I think there was an arrest that actually happened on the night here. And there were some eggs, as you can see, were thrown at the house. But people have a right to protest. They're extremely fed up and frustrated at the government trying to turn this town into a dumping ground for illegal immigrants.
Now, the local MP here, Mr. Jeremy, says that this would have been utterly terrifying for the people in these properties. He says that he condemns this behaviour and says that he doesn't know the immigration status of the people in these properties, but they are human beings and must be afforded the same rights that we all expect in this country. What's your reaction to his comments?
Well, of course he would say that. It's a typical reaction of a Labour MP. He has been tying himself up in knots to try and distance himself from his own government's policies. He has been, he's totally ineffectual. He's also a town councillor here. He doesn't even go to town council meetings sometimes. He tries to shut down debate. And now he's gone on the attack, blaming the people in the town for causing the problem. He's called them mobs, he's called them vigilantes. He's saying that people are terrified and scared. Well, I can tell you who's terrified and scared. The woman who lives there is an elderly woman who was scared to go outside her house after these 6 men moved in. They were smoking outside, smoking in the back garden. They were staring in her window. The mums are here scared for their children's safety, particularly when the new camp, if that opens, might be scared to go out taking their dogs for a walk. So residents who live here are scared, so I think he's being divisive by trying to suggest that certain ethnic minorities here.
That's all we've got time for at this time this afternoon. Of course, in reaction to the allegations of the police being heavy-handed with their force, the Chief Constable of Norfolk Police has said that the police were firm in their action, but he absolutely refutes the claims, of course, that they were being aggressive, saying that he's proud and of the job that they have done. But of course, the Norfolk Police will now be looking ahead to the weekend if more protests were to take place, and looking what resources they would have available to combat what we've seen here over the past few days.
OK, Jack, thank you so much. That's GB News national reporter Jack Carson live in Thetford for us. Lots of you getting in touch about this story. Andy has said Thetford will be replicated throughout the UK. It's very similar to what we saw in Epping with the Bell Hotel.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And we have already seen it, haven't we? But people are scared and angry.
Yeah. Jocelyn as well says, going from the comments that she's seen, obviously in your view today, the vast majority are in support of the protesters down there in Thetford. Obviously, the hope that it will be a peaceful protest.
Well, indeed, yes. OK, speaking earlier today, the Chief Constable of Norfolk Police, Paul Sanford, said, "We have people who are exercising the right to protest, and of course we will support that. There are people who live in Thetford who are concerned, understandably concerned, about some of the things that are happening in their town. However, across 3 consecutive nights, a group of people have crossed the line as to what is acceptable, and we have been appropriately policing those behaviours."
Moving on now, in Mansfield in
The broken seams of modern Britain. Small towns, big politics, and the HMO explosion. Welcome back to Britain Underneath, the place where we look past the tailored suits in Westminster and examine the raw, unfiltered reality of what is actually happening across our towns and cities. Before we leap into the heart of today's investigation, please do take a moment to hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join our growing community of informed viewers. Your support truly helps this channel continue bringing you independent, sharp political commentary every single week. Make sure you stay with us right through to the end of this video, because the financial connections we are exposing today weave a picture that affects every single residential street in this country. Now, let us dive straight into the deep end.
Something fundamental is shifting across the British landscape, and if you listen closely, you can hear the strain in the nation's social fabric. We are constantly told by politicians that national plans are working, that numbers are under control, and that order is being maintained. But away from the polished mahogany podiums of Whitehall, in quiet residential communities like Thetford in Norfolk or industrial heartlands like Mansfield in Nottinghamshire, a very different story is unfolding. It is a story of frustration, policy clashes, and a growing divide between institutional declarations and everyday lived experiences. Take the market town of Thetford, where days of intense public unrest have laid bare the sheer volatility surrounding local asylum housing policies. What began as peaceful gatherings outside local administration points quickly spiralled into tense neighbourhood standoffs. Local representatives from Reform UK argue that residents are simply fed up with feeling as though their historic market town is being utilised as an unannounced overflow site for international arrivals, leaving long-term locals feeling ignored and apprehensive in their own communities. Meanwhile, figures within the Labour government and local MPs insist that those being housed are human beings, deserving of safety, strictly condemning any mob behaviour or vigilante tactics. The police find themselves trapped directly in the middle of this boiling pot. Officers on the ground face immense physical risks, simply attempting to keep peace between opposing groups, with senior commanders defending their operational tactics as necessary and measured. Yet, local residents describe a climate where fear runs both ways. Elderly citizens feeling hesitant to step outside their front doors, and vulnerable occupants inside converted properties fearing for their immediate security. It is a classic showcase of what happens when central government policy is forced onto local infrastructure without clear local consensus or communication. If you are finding this breakdown insightful, please take a quick breath, hit that subscribe button, and help the channel grow so we can keep bringing you the unvarnished facts. Staying informed is the most powerful tool we have in modern politics. This bringing of massive national political debates into tight-knit residential streets is not unique to Norfolk. Travel northwest towards Mansfield in Nottinghamshire and you will spot another quiet crisis brewing underneath the surface: the explosion of houses in multiple occupation, commonly known as HMOs. Traditional two-up, two-down family homes are rapidly being bought up, converted and reconfigured to house 8, 10 or sometimes more individuals under a single roof. Local figures across political lines are raising alarms over this rapid conversion trend. Traditional family neighbourhoods, designed decades ago for quiet living, are now struggling under the weight of severe parking shortages, overflowing refuse bins, and rising reports of low-level antisocial behaviour.
While local council leaders argue that their towns are reaching total saturation point and demand tighter statutory powers, central policy frameworks continue to drive demand for flexible, high-density housing solutions.
What makes the HMO phenomenon so politically charged is how seamlessly it links back to broader national issues like housing affordability, migration pressures, and council funding shortfalls. Landlords and property developers find HMOs immensely lucrative, drawing high yields in a squeezed rental market. But for local residents, the transformation of a quiet suburban street into a row of high-turnover multi-occupational units feels like an erosion of community stability. It represents a subtle yet profound shift in how British neighbourhoods function. Politically, the ramifications of these local pressure points are enormous. Parties like Reform UK are capitalising on this growing friction, using local council platforms and regional footholds to voice the dissatisfaction felt by voters who believe traditional parties have abandoned local priorities. On the other side, Labour ministers and local representatives are attempting a complex balancing act, trying to fulfil legal international obligations and repair a broken housing system, while simultaneously attempting to reassure anxious constituents that law and order will prevail.
This friction illustrates the core tension running through modern Britain. On one hand, you have abstract macro policies created in parliamentary offices. On the other, you have the tangible reality experienced by people on their doorstep. When those two realities collide without proper planning, transparency, or local consultation, trust in national institutions inevitably begins to fracture. The events in Thetford and the ongoing housing disputes in Mansfield are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a systemic mismatch between high-level governance and local capacity. As we examine these developments, it becomes clear that simply brushing aside local concerns as mere cynicism, or conversely, ignoring the human dignity of those caught in the asylum system, fails to solve the core dilemma.
Communities require investment, clear boundaries, transparent communication, and above all, a sense that their voices actually carry weight in the decision-making process. Without those elements, the divide between the governing and the governed will only continue to widen. Before we conclude today's analysis, I want to gently encourage you once again to subscribe to Britain Underneath. It takes just a second, costs nothing, but truly helps this channel survive and thrive against the algorithm. Please subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments below, take a breath, stay informed, and make sure to return for our next video as we continue to uncover the truth beneath the headline news. Thank you for watching, and stay sharp.